Chapter 4. Time is the all-powerful creator. Time is the source of all value and change. There's a basic fact of life that we often forget. Everything that has value owes its value to time. Time is the ultimate creator of value because it gifts to us a piece of itself. That piece is so scarce that we would trade anything for more of it. But, of course, we can't. We can never buy back a part of our youth, no matter how wealthy or socially regarded we are. And just as time can bestow value on anything, it can also take it away. There's a joke about a woman riding the subway in New York when she came across a green frog. The frog, to her surprise, yelled out to her, "My lady! My lady, if you are to give me but a simple kiss, I will immediately turn into a prince and love you dearly." The woman, still in shock, could not believe her luck and scrambled to put the frog into her bag. Once at work, she dragged her friend quietly into a room and said, "Listen, you won't believe what I found today. I found a talking frog, and I only have to kiss it for it to turn into a handsome prince." The friend responded, "Well then, why haven't you done it already?" "Where's the prince?" The lady shook her head. "What are you talking about?" "Who cares about a prince? What could be more valuable than a talking frog?" So, you see, even fairy tales aren't immune to the effects of time. Or, have you heard of this other joke about a man talking about his broken heart? A man was drinking and unloading onto his friend about his ex-partner. I saw her again, but this time I found out that she had just gotten married. And do you know what the worst part is? The worst part is that she is too good for him. Why did she even choose him? She is like a delicate spring flower on the head of a cow. A couple of years later, the man recounted the story of another brief encounter with his ex-girlfriend, but this time, instead of feeling sad, he was grinning from ear to ear. I bumped into her again. I bumped into her and her husband. But now I am glad that things didn't work out between us. The husband is still a cow, but she is no longer a delicate spring flower. One of our most fundamental fears is rooted in believing that life is solid. When we believe that life is fixed like rocks, it's easy for us to feel stuck. But please remember that nothing in life is as important as you think it is while you are thinking about it. The true state of affairs is that life isn't fixed. It's always in the process of changing and evolving. The ancient Greek philosopher Heraclitus said that change is the only constant in life. And Sun Tzu would wholeheartedly agree, except that he would add change is the only constant in life, and time is the only element guaranteed to create change. Jiaxu chases Cao twice. Jiaxu was a very talented military leader in the Three Kingdoms period. When he was young, he followed the great general Sun Tzu, and they both fought against another great general, Cao. In one particular battle against Cao, they bravely fought for days but were locked in a stalemate. Then one night, Cao, suddenly and without reason, retreated and took his troops with him. "Look!" Jiaxu exclaimed. "Cao is retreating! This is our chance!" "No," Sun Tzu shot back. "You must not follow. If you chase, you will be defeated." But Jiaxu, so excited by the possibility of breaking the stalemate, had already left the tent without waiting for Sun Tzu to finish his sentence. Jiaxu mounted his horse and led a charge, chasing Cao. He thought to himself, "Cao is afraid. That's why he's running. Why would I lose to him?" After a while, Sun Tzu saw Jiaxu riding back toward camp with his head hanging low. Cao had defeated him. But instead of yelling at him for not following his instructions, Sun Tzu ran out and shouted, "Quickly! You must go back on the offensive. This time you will win. You can have my head as a guarantee." Now it was Jiaxu who hesitated. He was confused. "Before, you told me that I would lose if I chased and I didn't listen. The lesson has cost me dearly, and now you say that if I chase again, I would win." Sun Tzu shouted, "Just go, you fool! Just go!" Jiaxu turned around on his horse and charged on the offensive once more, thinking that he had nothing else to lose. At daybreak, Jiaxu again rode back toward camp after finding a sweet victory. This time, his head was held high. He had won. Admittedly, the victory was unorganized and chaotic, but he had won nevertheless. Jiaxu, curious about how Zhang Tzu could predict the future, said, "I was in the same situation twice, and the advice you gave me was different each time. Yet both times you were correct. How did you know?" Those two situations were not the same. When Keokao first retreated, we didn't know what the situation was. We didn't know why he was retreating. He could have been luring you into a trap, or he could have had something urgent to tend to somewhere else. I did not know what the answer was, but I did know one thing, that you were no match for Keokao. Even though you are a very talented commander, compared to Keokao, you aren't a worthy foe. So, regardless of whether it was a trap or not, Keokao being there meant that you could not win. Zhang Tzu continued, but the second time was different. If it was a trap, Keokao would have chased you all the way here. He is ruthless and fearless, but I couldn't see him. He didn't chase, which meant that he had something important to attend to and had already left the scene, thinking that he had defeated you in battle. You going on the offensive again would be the last thing he would have expected. His other remaining commanders were no match for you, so I knew you would come home victorious. Zhang Tzu's advice wasn't based on luck. He had carefully thought through the reasoning in each situation and updated his strategy accordingly. He knew that the circumstances of the first offensive weren't the same as the circumstances of the second. How could they be? Time had passed. Unlike Jiaxu, his mind was not fixated on the past. I know it might feel strange to you at first, but try to see change as a force that can empower and support you. Don't fear it, fight it, or try to control it. Don't let initial setbacks discourage you, because there's always another way to get there, as long as you keep looking forward and ahead. Maybe you'll find that what you thought was blocking you has opened the doors to new opportunities you couldn't see before, or maybe those setbacks were what you needed to develop your edge. Base your decisions entirely on the present and let the past go. That's how we can start to harness the true value and power of time. Time is constantly whispering encouragement in our ear for taking a longer view on life. If you don't have the courage now, or if things are not working out for you, be patient. Do something else for a while. A legitimate but undervalued tactic is to just wait. Things will eventually change, that much I can guarantee. Timing is everything. As much as time drives everything, timing is also crucial. Confucius Kung Fu Zi said, whether your speech is accepted or interpreted as complete garbage will depend entirely on your timing. The same comments made to the same person will be met with anger instead of appreciation if your timing is wrong. A man who had just moved into his house invited his friends and family over for dinner. As the man was showing his friends around his kitchen, his friend with good intent told him, "Why have you put the dry wood and straw so close to the kitchen stove?" "That's dangerous because they might catch on fire." The man became very angry and shouted, "How dare you! This is the first time you've been invited into my home and you jinx it with bad luck." The man proceeded to ignore his friend and continued with the tour. But obviously, what the friend said was true. After a few months, the man's kitchen caught fire and it damaged half the house. Later, the man found the friend and again scolded, "Ew! It was because of you that my kitchen caught fire. You brought your bad luck into my house." Seems like a silly story, doesn't it? However, it does speak to the underlying truth that effective communication isn't about what we say, but rather what the other person hears. The man was too caught up in the excitement of his new home to let anyone tarnish its perfection. The friend was trying to help, but his timing was off. It was not the time or the place to give the man advice. Another story is about two friends wanting to develop more spiritual lives, so they signed up for a week-long retreat at the local monastery. Part of the retreat was to learn how to meditate in 45-minute blocks with breaks in between. But because these friends were new to the spiritual life, they still had worldly cravings for temptations like smoking. As their cravings started to build, they decided to go see the head monk to ask whether smoking was allowed. To increase their chances of him saying yes, they asked him separately. The first friend went in to see the monk while the other waited outside. After a short time, the friend came out of the room with a grin on his face. The friend waiting outside asked, "Well, how did it go?" The friend replied, "Go see for yourself." Seeing as his friend came out with a smile, he thought the monk must have said yes, so he went in feeling pretty confident. Inside, the man started to make his pitch. But before he could even finish speaking, the monk slapped him on the face and yelled at him to get out. He ran from the room to his friend waiting outside. "Did the monk say that you could smoke?" he asked. "Yep," his friend replied. Now he was really confused. "Why did the monk let you smoke and not me?" "Well, how did you ask him?" "I asked him directly. I asked if we were allowed to smoke when we were meditating, and that's when we slapped me." His friend started to laugh profusely. "Of course you can't ask it like that." He scratched his head. "Well, how did you ask him then?" His friend replied smugly, "I asked if we could meditate when we were smoking, and the monk said I could do it anywhere. Meditation was appropriate at all times. Time is too valuable to be wasted. If you agreed that time is the master creator of value and change, then would you also agree to waste it? No, I'm not telling you to watch less TV or to spend more time with your family, although you should probably do both of those things. I'm asking you to give up on the other ultimate time suck, dwelling on the past." Sun Tzu knew that any second spent mulling over events that had already happened was a complete waste of time. There was little to gain from dwelling on the past. Learn from your mistakes and then let the past go. The meaning of life lies with the future, not the past. Always keep your eyes looking forward. Wu-da, monk. Shuichen is a classic Buddhist scripture that opens with a story about a high-ranking monk, Wu-da, in the Tang dynasty. He gained so much favor with the emperor that he became the emperor's royal spiritual leader. Not long after he was given this honor, Wu-da grew an unusual ulcer. But this was no ordinary ulcer, because the ulcer had a face. When Wu-da ate, the ulcer would eat with him. The emperor's personal doctors came to see him, but they didn't know how to heal the unusual disease. One night, Wu-da remembered a moment from his youth. He remembered meeting an old man on the street who, strangely, yelled out to him, "Don't forget me!" "Even when you have the most unusual of ailments, you can come find me." Having almost given up all hope, Wu-da set out to find the man. He travelled for miles over rivers and mountains to the spot where he originally met the man. "Bless the heavens, I have finally found you. It is fate that has brought us together, and it is fate that you will now heal my wounds," Wu-da said excitedly after finally finding the man. The man examined the ulcer and said, "Tomorrow at dawn, you will go to the clear waters of this mountain's lake, and you will use the water to wash the ulcer. Do so, and it will be healed." Wu-da was so ecstatic about the possibility of having his disease cured, he could not wait to head down to the lake in the morning. He got up before sunrise and headed to the lake in darkness. He used the water to wash the ulcer, but then something perhaps even more horrifying happened. The ulcer started speaking. It said, "Wu-da, you are a wise and educated man. Have you heard of the story about Yuanang and Keokuo? In a previous life, you were Yuanang and I was Keokuo, and you had the emperor execute me. So I have come to haunt you. I've waited over 10 lifetimes to finally reach you. I couldn't get close to you before because you were protected as a devout monk, but in this life your pride and arrogance as the emperor's spiritual leader has meant that I am now able to get close to you." Wu-da listened to the ulcer's story and frantically tried to wash it with more water. He felt immense pain as he washed, but he continued to wash and wash. Eventually, he couldn't handle any more pain and fainted by the lake. When he woke, his ulcer was gone, but he didn't forget about the lessons he had learned. He went back and wrote his story down in a scripture so others could share in his story. To Buddhists, this is a story about the perils of being arrogant. It was a warning that arrogance would leave you vulnerable to the consequences of karma from your previous lives. But as students of Sun Tzu, we would interpret this story differently. We would listen to the story and feel a great sorrow, not for Wu-da, but for Keokuo. The time from when Keokuo lived during the Han Dynasty to when Wu-da living in the Tang Dynasty was a span of about 1,000 years. Keokuo's hatred was so potent that he chose to be a ghost that entire time. For 10 lifetimes, Keokuo stayed as a ghost consumed by revenge. Wasn't Keokuo someone to be pitied for having wasted 1,000 years of his time for a split moment of revenge? But guess what? Keokuo wasn't the only one who wastes time like this. I hate to break it to you, but we're guilty of behaving like this sometimes. When our partners have affairs, when we lose our job, or when we feel hurt by a friend's comment, we choose to carry the pain with us everywhere we go. In those moments, we're the ones who forget that time is precious and shouldn't be wasted. Don't worry, I'm guilty of this too. I often found myself this way until I got incredibly bored of who I was becoming. I got bored of my complaints, bored of the negative self-talk, and bored of the unnecessary self-inhibition. And I asked myself, what if I could just buck up and enjoy life? Keokuo didn't appreciate the value of time when he was living, and he still didn't appreciate the value of time after he died. We can't make the same mistake as Keokuo. When bad things happen to us that we cannot change, we have to let them go. Every thought that we have about our past serves only one purpose, to help us to better understand the present so that we can move forward with more wisdom. What if you tried proclaiming that you'll enjoy the pain, agony, and embarrassment just as much as the successes? How would your perspective change? Actually, don't think about it. Just trust me and give it a go.